This episode features an interview with Anne Morris. Now, Anne investigates EVP, which is the electronic voice phenomena, which is the unwitting manifestation of anomalous sounds onto audio recording equipment. Now, I've been trying to get Anne on the program for a couple of years, actually. What she does is absolutely fascinating. Now, from the point of view of editing, I just thought the recordings would sound so much better if they're put at the end of the program. So she'll talk about things, and there's a little clip in the middle of the interview, but the main recordings are at the end, and there are also some subtitles with it. So you'll find this absolutely brilliant. So without further ado. Okay, so today I'm talking to Anne Morris. Hello, Anne.
Hello,
How are you?
Vic. Long time no see.
Yes, it is. You just have to say it sounds a bit suspicious as when you but I haven't seen you for what you said 35 years.
About 30, probably even more, actually. No, I think the last date, so for anyone that doesn't know, Vic used to teach me guitar when I was tiny. And the last date that I have on my music notes was 1990, 1991, something like that, I think. So, yeah, a long time ago. So here we are again. Who would have thought?
Yeah, exactly. Weird stuff. I actually, I do actually keep in contact with quite a few people that I've taught. So but it's always interesting. Okay, so traditional first question is what you do.
Right. Well, this veers into the category of weird stuff. So I investigate, study, and dabble in what's become known as EVP, which stands for electronic voice phenomena. So, in a nutshell, this is the kind of unwitting manifestation of audio onto recording equipment. So, in other words, sounds that have no business to be there
Yeah,
were not there at the time of recording. Um, and they can only be heard upon playback. So they are frequencies that are undetectable by the human ear, these sounds that come back, and they can be anything from voices. Most frequently, they are human voices, other sounds too. But it's just important to realize that these things are not there at the time to our ears. We cannot pick them up. And they're not echoes. I've recorded in many, many places in the UK, France, Germany, Greece, in many places when I'm totally alone, in absolute silence, and that back these things come, and they are not echoes. They are intelligent, very much in the moment, in the here and now. So this is not me picking up radio, stray radio waves. This is not my imagination. This is not me hearing kind of stray waves from perhaps lorry drivers or the military or the police, things like that. But this is important to realize that these things are in the here and the now. And this is what I do. It started out not accidentally, but as a bit of a hobby, and became more and more, got more and more engrossed with it. And if this was a job, I would be doing it full time. Um, and I started off doing it in Kent. Um, on, I used to go to the traditional kind of ghost hunt things, the group things that go on, which I now steer clear of. But it was by going to these events and then realizing that I was living for the free time at the end. You'd pay what, £45 for a 6 hour stint. I don't know, Fort Amherst in Kent along the River Medway, or Fort Halstead, and I was living for the hour at the end when I could scarper off on my own and record. And my very first capture came in the Napoleonic tunnels of Fort Amherst at about 2:20 in the morning, when I was totally on my own. And what I got back when I plugged in at home the next day and listened was a northern gentleman saying, "They're joking." It sounded like Sean Bean. And I thought, this is incredible. This actually works. This isn't just a paranormal thing that kind of is floated out there by the TV ghost shows. This actually is the real deal. So from that moment on, I took it and ran with it, moved to Somerset, and it's gone crazy.
Amazing,
Yeah.
amazing. So the point is, what got you into that? Because it's sort of like, when I talk to anybody, whether it's to do with obviously like music or being creative, or obviously I've interviewed lots of people who are witches and tarot readers who are also artists. Weirdly, most of them. Um, it's something that there's either a particular trigger point or something that's really been there from the very beginning. So, what was it for you?
Right. Well, I was brought up, as you know, in a very small household, very small family. When it came to weird stuff, my mother, a believer, she's had some very strong experiences over the years that she told me about, and it fascinated me as much as repelled me and terrified me. My father, absolutely not. Nothing. It's absolutely ridiculous. If you believe anything like that, you need to be, you know, put somewhere safe. That's now changed. But anyway, it was my mother's stories about her experiences in Spain when she was staying in an old monastery up in the mountains. Woke up middle of the night, moon was pouring through the shutters, through the holes in the shutters, and she could see that somebody sat on the end of her bed. And she sat up and thought, okay, it's a cloaked figure. So she got up and walked to the light switch, turned it on, expecting there to be nothing. And it was this monk sat on the end of her bed. She could only see the top half. He was turning to her and smiling. She could see his eyes, and then he faded. As she went for a walk around the gardens, came back, gone, and she went back to bed. That was the first experience she had of anomalous phenomena, apparitions, but not her last. She's had plenty of other things down the line. And it just struck me that, that was obviously the early days when we didn't talk about this stuff.
Yeah,
So I've always had interest in that kind of thing. And then into my 20s, I used to watch, this is quite an embarrassing admission, I used to watch one of the TV ghost shows, the early ones from America. And I was watching it and I think, hang on, I recognise that. And they said, oh, we're here at Fort Horsted in Kent. I thought, well, that's only 20 minutes from where I live.
yeah,
And there was a local team on there. So I got onto the internet and they did the ghost hunts, the ghost tours. So I joined up with them for a couple of outings, and that's how I got into it. I heard about EVP, and as much fun as the group activities are to kind of just get you, it's more like a fun night out. It's not investigating, it's not serious. Um, I thought, hang on, there's something here that I connect with. And I did have experiences there, not just EVP, but it was that fed the enthusiasm and the interest to take it further than just thinking, oh, this is just a spooky night out. I mean, there is so much more to this. Um, and yeah, it's really opened my mind, and the stuff I've experienced since doing this, it's put my worldview into a blender and switched it on full. Because once you've
yeah.
experienced certain things, I mean, my EVP work alone, the stuff that's come back, you cannot be the same person once
No,
you've realised what these things are. Um, so yeah, along the way, I've experienced other things too. We actually had activity at our own home here in Somerset as well, which, again, once you've experienced that, you can't be a normal person again. So I've made it my
no.
not just a hobby but passion now to study this stuff.
I think that's the thing, isn't it? It's like once you've experienced something, there's no going back,
No.
um, because if it's sort of a significant event that you can't dismiss, because I think that what's going on for a lot of people is that well, first of all, I think people are not as sensitive as they used to be.
No. No.
Right. I think that seems to be a fairly safe remark. I mean, if you were living as a labourer or you were looking after a family in a house in the countryside, you were more aware of things generally, naturally, weren't you? Um,
Mm,
I mean, spending time just being out in nature makes you a lot more aware of yourself, let alone
absolutely.
anything external. And but of course, we don't have an awful lot of that now. Um, so we tend to be a little bit desensitized. I think that's the first thing. And the other thing that I've always sort of found interesting is that when you've got a situation where every culture in every period of time believed in something external, and some of the oldest recorded, well, books, if you like, clay
Yeah.
tablets and everything, places like Sumeria and what have you, there are effectively, you know, I won't say a book, but lots of stuff written about how to deal with spirits.
Mm,
And it seems to be there in every culture. And it's like, well, how is it that we could just sort of dismiss this as just nonsense when people that were incredibly intelligent would believe in stuff?
mm,
Um, so now we've got the point where we've got the technology, because I think this is interesting that we've got, because you'll have to explain to me the equipment that you use, um, that we've got the stuff, and yet we're still sort of thinking, oh, you know, from the majority of people.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
I
So
feel that. Sorry, go on.
what sort of equipment? It must have just started with an ordinary tape player, I'm assuming.
It did. I mean, in the when I first got the bug, I just got onto eBay and got one of those cheap little Chinese voice recorders. You know, the little 15 quid things. Since then, I progressed to something slightly better, but you know, you don't need the proper high tech fancy stuff. I mean, I've got a Sony PX370. This is my. I've got about four of these, and that's it. Keep it simple. Um, yeah, I mean, I take this everywhere I go. That's all I use out when I'm out and about. I mean, when I come back, that's when the real work starts because, you know, as much fun as it is to go out and record and do all this and get this stuff coming back, um, I've always thought, well, what do you do with this information, this data that I've got? It's no good saying, oh, I went and spent 6 hours at Shepton Mallet Prison and I've got 45 recordings. That's fantastic. You've got to do something with this, and that's where I use different audio programs at home on my laptop. I catalogue everything that I do, so in handwritten notes, and then I upload this to spreadsheets and try to make sense, if you can, of what's coming back, how many captures, the quality, um, any repetitions of capture. I mean, I've got several locations that I go to regularly, and every time I go near enough, I get the same similar voices coming back saying the same things, interacting. So just making a real kind of catalogue of my work, basically. So tech wise, it's literally the voice recorder, my laptop, and a pair of headphones. I do have other ghost hunting equipment as well, but for EVP, keep it simple,
Mm,
really.
mm, mm. So from this Fort Amherst, and I mean
Yes.
it's quite a spooky place.
Have you been there?
Yeah, I have. There used to be. I've got a feeling there used to be a recording studio in one of those, you know, because there were bits of the because it's a massive building. It's a
Huge
Napoleonic
site, yes.
sort of fort, isn't it? With these massive walls and
Yes.
tunnels and goodness knows what else. And I got a feeling that I went down there once for like a rehearsal studio or something because I think parts of it were farmed out for things at one
Probably
point.
functions and
Yeah, yeah, but you know, I don't know. Anyway, but yes, it's an interesting, very odd place.
oh, I love it. It was my first special place, and yeah, I could live down there.
Yeah, yeah. So from that, then, did you just keep going back there?
For a while, so I think the only way I could get access solo, which is what I do, I work alone because um, with this kind of thing, obviously you need to make sure it's as quiet as
Yep.
possible. So while that might be a catch-22 for the skeptics to say yes, but obviously you're mistaking sounds for EVP, you're faking. Neither of those things. So the only way I could get access was to go along with these groups, pay the fee, and say do the hour at the end. So I went out with this one particular group, Ghost Hunt Events, based in Kent, for about 5 or 6 times to Amherst, before trying a few other venues. Came up to Bodmin Jail, Fort
Yeah, that I
Borstal.
used to live near Bodmin.
Oh, see, there's so many connections here.
Yeah, I used to live in Wadebridge down in Cornwall. So
Uh,
Bodmin Jail, I mean, that is a really historic place. Bodmin.
oh, again, get me in there
Very.
alone.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, so Bodmin Jail.
Mm.
So what did you do? Did you then? have you got to the point that this where you just talk to the people who run it, or do you?
That was actually my last organised event, because then, well, they didn't know what I was doing in the spare time, but I was still collating all this information. But after that, I left Kent, obviously left the group, moved to Somerset and went solo. I went rogue, because I got access pretty much on tap to the incredible Shepton Mallet Prison, which is 20 minutes up the road from me. We'd just moved into the area, sick of DIY. Jack and I, we wanted a day out somewhere historic, but not somewhere prim and proper historic, so not National Trust or English Heritage. We wanted somewhere raw. So we got onto the great god Google, and the rest is history. And we were the first people through the door the day that it officially opened to the public, which we didn't know. So it's now a dark tourism slash heritage site, open to the public 7 days a week. And we were the first through the door, had the place entirely to ourselves. We were the only visitors. So I ditched Jack, my husband, and went off with my trusty recorder and had 6 hours of absolute lone wandering. And what came back from that first day, wow, that's when the addiction truly started. And I've been back once a week, twice a week, 3 times a week since, um, barring holidays and things. And I did work there as well. So now there's no need to do the group thing. I just go out on my own, and yes, I'm a solo freak. But I
Yes.
wouldn't have it any other way.
So when you did you sort of start to see like a pattern of things that were coming up in the recordings? And if so, what were they?
Right, well, to begin with, looking back at my recordings from like 2017, which when I first started going to the prison, um, the quality of captures wasn't quite what it is now. Kind of more whispery and faint, male, female, even animal sounds as well. We've got dogs barking, which definitely weren't there. But as time went on, I began to notice I would have what I call my repeat offenders. So, for example, up in the old Gate Lodge, which was an addition built in 1790, two tiny rooms up a stone staircase. The stuff I was getting in there every week was vile. Now, I'm not going to say the words that were coming out, but this one particular male, um, favourite words would begin with C, F, and all the rest of it. And obviously, I'm completely unaware of what's being said. So I'm sat there going, "Hi, my name's Anne. I'm just going to sit down in the window if that's okay." And the stuff that would come back was this torrent of abuse. And every week I would go, I would get this same voice. In the chapel, the same thing. I'd have this gentleman um, angrily shouting in the gallery, which is the top room near the vestry. Um, so he was another repeat offender. But the Gate Lodge one I nicknamed Mr. Grumpy. And then there's one gentleman subsequently over the years, he's still going, that I nicknamed Mr. Romeo, because everything he says is lovely. And it's the same soft, gently spoken voice. I love you. I love her. Does she love me? It might not be focused on me, but wherever I go in the prison, this voice comes through, and it's loud and it's clear. And I think it's one of the captures that I sent to you, in
Yeah.
the mix. He reminds me, if anyone's seen the BBC show Ghosts, the comedy, he reminds me of Thomas the poet in that, if anyone can imagine that, just gently spoken. Um, yeah, repeat offender wise, little girl. And when I worked there in 2022, I started here in the moment audio as well. So I was recording this child between 1 and 3 in the morning when I was on my own at the prison. I was working as a night supervisor. I'd leave my voice recorder out the back in closed visits, go off and do whatever. On listening, there's this little girl, loud and clear, and again, you will hear her. But I started to hear her in the moment as well, towards the end of my time working there, which was unnerving. But that one particular night, not just EVP, the other phenomena came together as well. It was the night after the Queen had died, and it went absolutely crazy. But anyway, pattern wise, obviously looking back over all the data I got thousands of bits of paper and folders, you can start to see when it gets more active, and it tends to be the colder the weather. So through the winter months, quality and quantity are up. In the summer months, I'm still getting EVP, but not so much. Certain areas of the prison are more active at certain times of the year, and that's something I'm looking into at the moment. So, for example, A wing comes into its own in April, February, March, April. B wing, again, the colder. So, if it's sub zero or has been sub zero, you'll walk in there and within 1 minute you'll start having captures. In the summer months, B wing, it can take up to 10 minutes to get the first, and then it rolls in. Gate Lodge, old entrance. The older parts of the prison is quick fire and very intelligent. But I could go on about this forever. It's got so
Well, that's
much.
amazing. That's amazing. What what do you think that is?
Well, this is one of the things I've had to get my head around. In April this year, the prison asked me to do a talk about all this, and part of it was, what do I think EVP is? And I thought, well, that'll be easy. But then I actually thought, what do I think this is? Well, I think it is some strong link to the proof that there is a continuation of the consciousness post
Mm,
physical death. I think it does continue. And this is almost, it's not a case of having to, everyone hold hands and look up and say, is anybody there? These things are literally all around us right here. So it's almost as if this consciousness throughout our physical life, we are imprinting, we're kind of like leaving an imprint in to another frequency, if you like, and another, not, I don't want to use the word dimension, it sounds very Star Trek, but um, we're always imprinting. And it seems like the more emotional the imprint, it's like oil droplets on the surface of water, it sticks in situ.
mm,
And so it's not all about death, death, death. I think it's all about where life has been, but it takes that switching from this mortal period we're all in at the moment for this imprint to become live, if you like. It's gone live, and where we've imprinted during our lives, I think these oil droplets on the top, these independent, intelligent imprints of ourself, they remain in situ, which would explain hauntings, why you get certain phenomena in places that you would expect, where there's been trauma,
mm,
tragedy, hospitals,
mm.
asylums, etc. Why are hauntings so prevalent in these places and not John Lewis on a Sunday afternoon? Well, I think, again, the more emotion and more life that's been imprinted into a place during the mortal time, that's where it sticks most. But this stuff can be experienced anywhere at any time, as I've found out, because I can record in the most boring places. So, for example, council tax offices on a Sunday afternoon when it's shut, I could go in and I would get EVP, but it
Mm.
would differ in quality and quantity to those captures that I get in other places, such as the prison, or hospitals, or asylums, or battlefields. I've recorded in all of these places,
Yeah, yeah,
and it's these historical, weighty places that have seen brutality and trauma that
yeah,
tend to give more. It, like the phenomena sticks its head over the parapet more than it would do in John Lewis or Waitrose. it's
yeah, yeah. That's very interesting. So, what about the weather and the
Yeah.
temperature? What do you think that's doing?
Well, if this is a kind of frequential issue, obviously going to talk. I'm not a scientist or a sound person like yourself, but obviously the weather, sound changes during colder weather. We can hear more, we can hear further, we can hear the traffic. It's becomes more concise, whereas the warmer the weather, molecules expand. I mean,
Yeah,
I haven't
yeah,
done a study on this.
yeah. That sort of makes sense. And it's
I'm
also
just
that thing
thinking.
that when you get one of the things that used to be, the classic sort of haunting thing is suddenly there's a chill.
Hmm,
There's that sort of thing. And interestingly, that is a phenomenon that is something that I am aware of.
mhm.
That things seem cold or they unusually cold, not because it's like the temperature has dropped. You register something changing, and it's almost like there's a gear change,
Mhm.
right? Um, and you saying that it's more there's a significance to weather, temperature,
Seems
but
to fit. Yeah.
yeah, but also you were saying that certain times of the year in certain places, and I find that interesting because it's like,
Mhm.
okay, what's what's that? I mean, is that some gravitational thing? Is it the moon? Is it what is it? What's doing
Uh,
that?
Again, looking at the data purely from the prison and kind of analysing each area. So every time, after every visit, so I'll listen through, I'll note down which areas, what you get in which area, how many per area, and also how long it takes to get the first capture in each place. So I call that like the first bloods. That's how long it takes. Productivity rating, how many you get in each location. So by looking at all of this and making an average at the end of the year, you can see year on year which ones are similarly, up or down.
Yeah.
If I look at the history of each particular area, such as Sea Wing, for example, back in Victorian, pre-Victorian, it was the women's wing. And that housed some pretty revolting people, such as Amelia Dyer, who killed up to 400 infants for money. So it's not, you've got
Yeah.
this weighty history in this
Yeah.
relative.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then
Yeah.
latterly, it closed during the war, that particular section, and then it was for male sex crimes before closure in 2013. So you've got these layers of history. And obviously, in Sea Wing, there would have been youngsters as well. The women would have had babies there too. So you've got completely different energy and history in Sea Wing that you would have, just down the corridor segregation. You've got the execution room, which hasn't been used since the war. That gets a lot of attention. Obviously, the visitors, it's a morbid thing. People flock to the execution room. I find at the moment, I'm getting hardly anything in execution. And I find that the
Right.
more kind of footfall and interest in a place, the more trodden the path, the less
Right.
I get.
That is interesting. Okay. So, because I sort of, I'm interested in dowsing. And I was talking to somebody who was a dowser, but also had quite a lot of training in China. So with feng shui, and she said, you know, that one of the best ways of getting rid of a place that's really haunted is to put a lot of children in there.
Okay.
So the best thing to do is, like, if you've got a building, like a municipal building that's problematic, if you put a crash in there and you sort of go, right, you get that, you get the idea that in the Chinese way of thinking that the ghostly energy is very what they call yin. It's very cold. It's in inverted commas, feminine,
Mm,
cold, dark energy, right? And of course, children are completely the opposite. They're this
yeah,
sort of, you know, it's just completely alive. And I've always thought that was really fascinating. That
that is interesting because
so when you're talking about footfall,
mm,
a lot of people wandering in and being fascinated by something.
mm,
It's a little bit sort of, I won't say childlike, but it's got that people, ooh, ooh,
yeah, it's
that,
definitely
you know,
yeah. The more attention has been paid to a certain area, it does detract from. And I've noticed, for example, if there's been a big event, say on a Friday night, they have a sleepover event called Porridge or a Night Behind Bars, or the paranormal groups have been in. If I come in the next day, it's dead as a dodo.
yeah,
It's drained. The Gate Lodge, which used to be my hotspot, I'd have on average about 25 captures per hour up there. Now I'm lucky if I get one or two. And that's because the ghost tours that they run, they've played some of my EVPs up there. They take people around and play it. And they're like, oh, this is where it all happens, la 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 la. So now
right,
people are up there and my Mr. Grumpy's not there anymore.
right. Now this is interesting. Um, I'm interested in William Burroughs, okay, and I've done a lot of stuff with cut up and all that, and I wrote a book about that. Well,
Wow.
Burroughs had this thing about using recordings of a place being played back to the place, right?
Mm.
And his take on it, well, I say his take on it, I'm sort of paraphrasing this, that it makes weird stuff happen. Now, interestingly, whether that weird stuff is playing back to the place that it recognizes its own sound, and somehow in a moment it changes being what it normally is. I don't know. It's just that is really fascinating. So,
Right.
so
Yeah, I
one of his things was like it's a disruptive thing to do. Um, so he would record areas of a street,
mhm.
and then he'd go back and he'd edit the tape, and then go back to the place, the same place, and play the sound back to the street
Okay. Right.
to
Now that
see what would happen.
that's fascinating because it's almost as if with the sound it kind of pierces and goes beyond. I keep saying like frequential divide, frequential bridge. It's something that is tangibly close and can be affected, relatively easily. And I believe that's kind of, I'm going that way, whereas that would be feeding from both directions.
Yeah,
And I've played things back in situ as well. I haven't had any luck with anything kind of saying, coming back from that, but to play the voices that I've recorded in a certain area, it's quite unnerving, but it's yeah, I don't know, it's quite
yeah,
special as well.
yeah,
Um,
yeah. So I think there is something in that process. I don't know what that is. I'm just saying that. But I mean, a lot of Burroughs stuff was about sort of just creating weird situations, situations that changed your state of thinking, and made odd things happen. That was, you know. But that's amazing. Now
um,
I'm just wondering, could because I'm not sure how good this will be now, but was saying to you that I could put, if that's okay with you, put some
yeah,
recordings at the end so that
of course.
I could just upload from your recordings. But could you play something now and we can listen and we'll see how
Of course. Let me just see.
if
Excuse
it
the
comes out.
clicking. It's quite a lengthy stretch. Did you want me to do the whole thing? Just hit play and
Yeah, and just
yeah.
we'll see how we go and we can sort of.
Right. Okay, let's up the volume. I don't know how good this is going to be. But right, so it's a collection of clips from different locations um, over the years. So yeah, between 2017 and now. So here we
And you
go.
can talk over it as well, so it doesn't,
Okie
just
doke. Yeah, I've repeated each one. I think it's 3 times. Here we go.
okay.
Right, here we go. So this is the old gate lodge. And that was a little boy that I recorded about 10:30 at night.
Right, okay, and there's nothing coming through now. I'm wondering whether that's is this on the same bit of equipment that you're recording that I'm.
This is on my laptop, but this isn't going to work, is it?
No, so if you played it on, have you got a little device that you could play
I
it on?
have. I could do it on my phone. Let's see if this works.
Because it's some sort of noise reduction thing, I think, that
Ah,
goes on
sorry.
YouTube.
Right, hold fire.
Yeah, so even if it's on your phone, that'll be fine. Because as I say, we'll put the recordings on later so people can listen.
Oh, I've got it on flight mode. Hang on a sec. Sorry. Sorry. Right, here we go. Right, volume up. Go away. It's trying to sell me things. Sorry about this. Hang on.
No, don't worry, it's okay. It's a live show, folks.
No. Where's the link? Where's the link? Where's the link? Oh, for goodness sake. So I've now got to go into the email I sent you. There it is.
Oh, okay.
There we go. Right, please work. Here we go, I think. Is
Okay.
that too loud?
No, it can be louder. Right.
So that's the original speed. Load down.
So what do you think they're saying?
I have subtitled these as well, which
Right.
is
Okay, so that'll be okay because I'll be able to put up your recording and I'll have the subtitles on it at the end.
right. Yes. Obviously, powers that be say I shouldn't subtitle because it influences what the hearer hears.
Yeah, well, that's very true. Yeah,
Mm.
yeah, yeah.
But I've
But
had to
the
put
point is,
something.
they are very clear. They are very clear sounds, aren't they? It's not like,
It's not fuzzy. These are some of the clearest ones, and obviously, once you listen to them properly, on a device, probably with headphones, it's a lot clearer.
yeah, 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 yeah,
Um,
yeah. But
but
it'll be clear at the end of the
that's lovely.
thing,
Yeah.
so people
Um,
can listen.
yeah.
So,
So
so the point is, you can't hear those generally,
at all at the time.
right? So the next question is, do you get points where you do hear?
Okay, this is one of the weirder things that have happened. There's two incidents that are not just EVP, but really mind-boggling, that if I can just tell you those, because it's
Yeah.
just makes this other stuff look normal. So I was up in the old gate lodge, and there's a hole in the top floor. There's a hole in the floor about so big, down into the first level. So once I was there with a couple of friends, and I did the tourist thing. I got down in the hole in the floor and got somebody to take a photo from underneath. And basically, out of the 3 photographs that Charlotte took, one of them had this thing appearing around my face. You can see shining thumb fingernails, and there's mist, and I'm distorted, and there was this smell of rotten eggs, dog poo, and vomit. It was revolting. So every time I go back in there near enough, I say, what was that thing that I saw? What was it? And I've never had a response. But in 2022, I think it was 23, I was up there. I moved the board away from the hole and I tried to recreate the moment. So I had my voice recorder running and I got down on the floor, and then suddenly something smashed against the wall about 2 feet from where I was. Something metal, in my mind, either a knife, a little metal cup, something like that. This is no mistaking it for anything in the lane outside. There was nothing had dropped from the ceiling. There was nobody there with me. And I leapt up and swore. Nothing normally makes me shout, swear, or anything this place, because I'm not scared there. But this was, and I said, what was that? And heartbeat, calm down, went home. When I got back, I listened to that particular stretch, and just before whatever it was that was thrown, there was nothing there, nothing actually physically there, but I heard it. A child screams, "Go away!" Um, so that's EVP, which I did not hear in the moment. And then something, I'm putting two and two together, this child threw, smashing. So it's almost like it's crossed that barrier, that frequential bridge. And the child, who we would presume to be from the past, um, is seeing something. This was the gatekeeper's quarters. So whether it was his child or a little street urchin that was doing his bidding, I don't know. But presumably in that space, in whatever time he's in, he's looked up and seen something grovelling on the floor. Because I was on my hands and knees like this, and he's terrified. So what do? You scream and you go away. Um, so that was a combination of EVP and in the moment audio phenomena. And that's not the only time. I could talk about the little girl a bit later. But that got me thinking, what is it about that top room that is almost a swirling of time? We think
Mm.
we're in the present, but I don't think that's the case. I mean, time's
No.
not linear, it bends and weaves and grazes, and there's something in that moment that I was in that little boy's space.
Yeah.
He was in
Yeah.
mine.
Yeah. That's an interesting thing, isn't it? Now, that's not an unusual concept, is it? That we can have places that are doorways or crossroads. I mean, crossroads classically
Yeah.
are places of intersection.
Mm,
Um, and they are an intersection because we can actually physically see them, but they actually act as an intersection as well, don't they? So
yeah.
maybe the hole in a floor acts like that. You
It's
never know, do you? Because we don't know what that does
no, in our little
consciously.
mammalian human world, that's impossible. But actually, things are proven all the time that that's not the case. And
Yeah,
there's one more incident, if I could just mention, in that
yeah,
same top room a few months before. A friend of mine brought her 2 young sons. I'm just going to call, okay, you're going to hear the recording anyway. So they have given their permission for me to use their name. So Woody and Will. Woody was 12, Will just about to turn 9. They're both lovely kids, trustworthy, meek, fascinated in what I do. So Becky said, "Can I bring them along?" I said, "Absolutely, bring them. I'll bring my spare recorders. Let's go straight to that top room because weird stuff had been happening." And I was like, "Yes, they've got 2 young boys." I showed them how to use the recorders. They were the old Chinese clicky ones. I said, "Stand there. Don't fiddle. Don't fuss. Just introduce yourselves. Keep it polite. I'll leave you for 5 minutes." And so Becky and I went downstairs, far enough away to not be involved in the recording, but if they screamed, we could go running, and left them to it. So when I got the recorders back, I listened first of all to Woody's, and it said, "Hello, I'm Woody, and this is Will." And Will says, "Hello," in this lovely, clear, choir boy voice. And then it goes on. So when I listened to Woody's, it says, "Hi, I'm Woody, and this is Will." But instead of saying hello, loud and clear, and you can see it on the sound wave, it's different, and then it carries on. It's just that one brief deviation. And there was no trickery. They didn't pause and re-record. There's nothing like that going on. I've harangued these boys for years about this, and they were petrified about what they were doing. They were not
No,
capable of, right, I can manipulate this and do
no,
this.
no, no, no,
And we've
no.
got two entirely different things recorded on two recorders at the same time. Again, what does that tell you about that space and our perception of time and reality? It's crazy, but it's not. It's
Yeah, because you know a lot. The problem is that lots of things when they are not explainable just get ignored,
mm,
right? But there are lots of weird stuff where people have seen things that later on they start to realize that maybe they were seeing themselves as they were older, but
mm.
as a
I,
person in a room.
I've heard of that, like almost a doppelganger of
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
yeah,
I've
and
I've had something like that,
have you?
so I know from from my own experience. There was something very odd that used to happen to me when I was younger, and as I got older, I started to think, those ideas start coming back to you, and you
Mm,
think, actually, that look like me now, because when you're younger, you never know that's
you
what
don't
you're going to turn out to
exactly.
be. And a friend of mine's had a similar incident where she was walking because she was particularly interested in an Edwardian writer,
Right.
and they she was in the area that this woman lived, and she was walking down these little pathways and stuff. And then in a book written by this writer, she describes a woman that she sees walking and then just sort of disappears. And the description of the woman is actually this friend of what
That's
she was wearing. Now you can go, well, that's a coincidence, but that was particularly weird that she'd written about it as some sort of phantom that she saw
and it's actually
walking in this particular place that you know.
I love that. That's
So you sort of go, right, okay. The point is, I don't like to explain why and how, because I
mm,
think sometimes just having it left unexplainable makes it even more potent somehow.
mm,
Just that you don't need to know why. It's just the
no.
fact that something's happening. Um, and interestingly, there is this thing that once you, like you say, once you've experienced the thing and you can't go back, things start to show themselves more regularly.
Yes.
And that is a phenomenon that people know that in cultures that believe in certain things, those things are more prevalent.
Yes, I think acceptance does have something to do with it. And obviously you might well be primed to think that, weird things happen, maybe everything's, but there's a difference between, I think, genuine experiences such as you've had or I've had, and then thinking that everything is of a paranormal
Yeah,
anomalous nature.
yeah, yeah,
And
yeah,
it's important
yeah,
to always remain grounded. But I do think, as my friend Carolyn said, she said, if your light's on, she
yeah,
said, you shine bright. If your light's on, if there is something, and there is, beyond our human understanding and comprehension, scientific boundaries, of course there is, then if you're not frightened and you're accepting, these things will come to you
yes.
because you're not repelling them with fear. And I'm not scared of this stuff.
No,
On the whole, I find it fascinating. She said, because of that, you may well experience more. I mean, it's probably why I had stuff happen here.
yes,
Because she says,
yes, quite likely. I
if
mean,
you're
the other
happy,
thing also is the fact that because, and I always use from the creative point of view, saying to people, if you decide that you're going to buy a blue, whatever, Ford, something or other, that you start seeing them
more,
everywhere,
yes,
right? Because you your unconscious is open to that thing, right?
yes,
And but that's also true with things like opportunity
mm-hmm.
um, and luck. People find their own luck because if they think they're lucky, and there's been some research into this, that the people who think they're lucky tend to be more lucky.
Mm. Yes, you're
Um,
right. Like affirmations and things like that. It can
yes,
actually
I
genuinely.
think there is that thing that it's like the unconscious. It's like the radar, right?
Mm,
It's sort of picking up stuff. And if you're aware of things, it just makes those things more possible. So not only are you transmitting, you know, that you're observable, if you
Mm.
like, from another side. Let's put this is really what you were saying. Um, but also, if you are also more aware, because you haven't shut that down,
Mm.
um, then you will see more things and you will experience more things, won't you? And
Yes, I
it's
think so.
very interesting. So you did mention that you've done this stuff in other countries.
Yes, I have. I didn't set out. I didn't go on an EVP holiday or anything like that. But I say that this comes with me everywhere, my little recorder. And if I find myself somewhere that is potentially has a background which could give a VVP, I will use it. And I always have to obviously remain respectful. And
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
you can't just go to a crematorium and kind of whip out the recorder in the middle of a service or anything. Um, but I have, so recorded in France, and Jack and I, my husband, we go to Normandy every June for the anniversary of D-Day.
Yeah.
And it's quite something. I mean, especially at that time of the year, it's
Yeah.
like a World War II circus, basically. So we try to obviously visit the sites, but we try to take ourselves to places that are quieter, more reverent, keep away from the crowds. And, I find myself totally alone in the subterranean tunnels of the Asville battery, for example. And you've got these like a mile and a half network with these underground bunkers and casemates, and you're alone. And it's that ringing silence of, I have to do it. And the stuff that's come back has been incredible. So that's just one example. The manor house that we stay at in Normandy, it's a 1300s with additions and things. They've got a private chapel. It's an incredible place. Um, and I just popped into the chapel every night we're there. I just pop in and sit there with my recorder on. And again, the stuff that comes back blows my mind, loud and clear. German voice saying, "No women, women not allowed here." And the place was obviously overtaken by the Germans during the war, used as accommodation, and they used to use it as ammo storage. So it's got a very rich history, which again, rich history feeds phenomena somehow. I've recorded in Germany. Now, this one I felt initially quite guilty about. As part of our honeymoon, Jack took me to Sachsenhausen concentration camp, as he did. We spent 3.5 weeks in Greece, and then he was running the Berlin Marathon. So
Right.
we had, so
Okay.
it wasn't just an out there choice.
No,
Um, so we had a day, and
no.
he said he'd been there before. He said it's a really obviously I think everyone should visit somewhere like this. Auschwitz, obviously much bigger, very busy. Um, but Sachsenhausen was one of the pet projects, or the early days of the camps. It's much smaller. Some of the buildings still remain, but not all. So off we went, and I didn't have my recorder because I thought, no, some places. And we're walking around. I'm in one of the barracks. It's a two-story affair with a tunnel that leads underneath. And Jack disappeared somewhere. And again, I found myself alone. And there was almost this magnetic pull saying, please, please record. Like, this is somewhere really special and so heavy. When a silence is so much,
Mm.
it almost. So I got my phone out and recorded on that, and I recorded for about 18 minutes. And I got 35 captures come back throughout that short space of time, ranging from a whimpering child to a man saying, "Ich bin Paul," presumably one of the commandants or capos. I've got a man singing in the mortuary. And I swear to you, there was nobody with me at this time. And I felt awful because you don't go there to have fun. You
No,
don't
no.
go somewhere.
Well, it's not
And I,
necessarily fun, is it?
oh, no, and I felt I shouldn't be doing this. But when I got home, I read up on the camp a bit more, got a couple of books. And one of the books is the diaries of a Polish political prisoner called Leon, who was there. And one of his barrack mates wasn't going to last the night. And he said, in the morning, the capo, they'll kill me because I'm unhealthy. I won't
Mm.
last. Can you please take my diaries? And when you get out of here, if you get out of here, can you please let everyone know what goes on? Let my family have it. So Leon took the diary. His friend was killed the next morning, but Leon made it out upon liberation and he wrote his own book. And one of the quotes from this diary of the friend who died settled me. It made me feel better, almost. That sounds wrong, but and obviously he didn't mean it in the way that I understood it. But he said, "Do not leave this place without hearing our voices. We are the murdered of this war, and we do not want to have been murdered in vain." And
Amazing.
yeah, that just kind of made me feel actually. I have heard your voices, literally, I have your voices.
Yeah.
So that kind of placated any guilt that I had.
Mm.
So yeah, that was recording in Germany and Greece. Again, and kind of inappropriate, but I go to Kefalonia every year, which has a very rich World War II history, as anyone will know if you've read Captain Corelli's Mandolin or know about the massacres of the Acqui Division in 1943. 5,000 unarmed Italian soldiers were massacred by the Germans, who had suddenly decided to not being their allies and to get rid of them. So the whole island is basically a war grave, and where we stay, it's where most of the massacres occurred. And I'm friends with a couple of authors who have written about this, Italian historians, and the sites are not marked unless you know. You don't know, because the Greeks don't want any plaques, they don't want people visiting, etc. But there's about 7 or 8 sites that I visit regularly every year I go, just to pay my respect to the boys, take some flowers. And 2 years ago, I went to one of the sites called Frangata, where I think 467 Italians were shot and just left to the elements. It's in the middle of nowhere, a rural olive grove and arable land, and a cave, a kind of a red chalky cave. And again, you wouldn't know, there's a goat track up to it, and there's a tiny wooden cross left. And again, I recorded on my phone. I just 5 minutes, just standing there, just introducing myself as I do. I thought nothing's going to come back. It's 38 degrees. You've got the cicadas. I don't. I got home, listened, and I've got a German. It sounds to me like a German. It's in English, but saying, "Put your hands in the air" with a strong accent. And that gave me chills. That was loud and clear. Put your hands in the air. And I'm thinking, why would we be speaking English? Well, of course, if they don't speak Italian, English is the universal word. Um, and you can just imagine these lads all standing there at their last moments. And that made me think, is he referring to me? Is this German, this spirit, whoever he is, whatever he is, referring to me? Have I captured an echo of what did happen? Or is this personal? But either way, I recorded something very poignant. And again, highly emotionally charged area, imprint. Have I captured that? And I think I did. And I think you will hear that in the recordings I sent.
Yeah, brilliant. Okay. Well, on that note, I mean that was brilliant. And I've been trying to get you on this podcast
I know,
for
I've been too scared.
ages.
Sorry.
You're somebody who sits in a prison at night, and you can't possibly be scared. Anyway, and it was great to see. So I'll do that. I will put the recordings on at the end there. I mean,
Lovely.
there's a lot of people. I've told quite a number of people that you're going to be on the program,
Thank you.
so that'd be good. Anyway, so all the best for what you're doing.
Thank you.
And if you've got anything I could put on the show notes that could be, I don't know
Yeah,
if there's anything that any sites that you've got that you
yeah, I mean, I can give you
so,
so much more. I mean, literally, I could talk about this all day, every day. But if you have a listen to the recordings, if there's any of the stories behind each one, again, each one I've sent you behind the recording. There's a little story that I could give you, which obviously going through 7 minutes of clips is going to take a while, and I can't. So,
yeah.
but have a listen, see what you want. If there's anything else I can send you to help, I will.
Yeah, okay. We might be able to put something in the show notes. We'll talk about that in a minute
Lovely.
when we
Okie
finish.
dokie.
All
Thank
right.
you.
So that was brilliant. I
Thank you
thought it
very
would be.
much.
And we'll chat again soon. All right.
That'll be perfect. Thank you, Vic. And yeah, good luck with everything and over and out.
Yes. And to you.
Okay.
So what follows is the recordings that Anne has made. Each recording is repeated a few times, and there is some text to say what she thinks is being said. And it goes on for about 9.5 minutes. So enjoy and be amazed.
Neil? Yes, what? Yes, what? Yes, what?
Right here. Right here. Who's here, please? Who's here, please? In segregation cell. Right, let's get some good photos today. clouds red. All clouds red. All clouds red. If going through it was, that'd be great. Sam, are you in here? Giving a talk in a few weeks in London. About you? Giving a talk in a few weeks in London. About you? Who's here?